Hello everybody, welcome to the OpenMetal channel. My name is Todd Robinson and I'm going to be talking to you today about leveraging on-demand private cloud. And this talk is primarily for CTOs and other technical executives. So this is a brief guide to help leaders understand what on-demand private cloud is and how to leverage it for common workloads to increase performance and cut cloud costs. And again, Todd Robinson, I'm up there on the board as the president and part of the founding team of OpenMetal. So hopefully I can get through this pretty quickly today and leave you with a little more information about how to use on-demand private cloud. Quick thing about OpenMetal, 20 years of experience in hosting cloud, dedicated servers, data centers, etc. And we offer both bare metal as a service and private cloud as a service. Today, we're going to be talking about OpenMetal's on-demand private cloud, also known as private cloud as a service. And it is built on high-performance hardware. We use enterprise open source software with a transparent business model. As you can see up there, underneath the hood is OpenStack and Ceph. And OpenStack, the #1 open source cloud management system, and Ceph, the #1 open source storage system. So what is on-demand private cloud? So at its root, it is private, but it deploys like it is public cloud. This is the defining difference between private cloud and on-demand private cloud. So in our case, we can deploy resources in a little under a minute for our standard systems, and this can be up to a cluster that can handle 500 plus 4 gig 2 vCPU VMs. And so even though they're large systems, they deploy like the public cloud does, easy and fast. Second that you see it up on there is something inherited from the private side, and this is transparent pricing and very, very good cost controls. And so, and that's probably the most important one if you want to be the CFO's friend and stay on his or her side. So the on-demand private cloud remains at the costs remain at the hardware level. So admins can strictly control costs by simply limiting the hardware budget. So and even egress has much tighter controls with OpenMetal, so I'll cover that a little bit more later. So third defining attribute is, of course, it's your infrastructure. It is a private cloud. The hardware is completely under your control, and even our access is limited. So again, on-demand private cloud, the big key differentiator between private cloud and on-demand private cloud is it's that speed of deployment. And looking at that just briefly, just because it is such a defining difference, in our case, for OpenMetal, we've been faster and faster each year, and then went live in 1 US data center in 2022, and we're now in 3 data centers for 2023, and we've got our eye on a couple more coming up for 2024. So moving into the most important question that I typically get is I want to understand the benefits of on-demand private cloud from a cost standpoint. So up in front of you, you see is, first, what is your tipping point? So public cloud can be a great solution for many companies. And in fact, we have public cloud companies, providers that run on OpenMetal, and of course, we love that. This is not a private cloud versus a public cloud, only decision. The right tool for the job depends on your situation. If you're looking for a quick and easy way to know if on-demand private cloud might be right for you, just look at your aggregate monthly spend. If you're over 20K, you're likely at a tipping point. At this stage, you want to know how on-demand private cloud works, and this will help you make the right call. If you're well past the 20K, let's say 40K or above, the savings will be really meaningful. I recommend you reach out to me or to an account manager here. The link to the site will be in the comments below. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me there, or and if you connect there, just mention this video. So the tipping point is a very real thing, though. And so I'll put a link to our original article that has more information about where you might see this. Is it egress driven? Is it storage driven? Is it compute driven? And I'll give you some ideas there. So I'll put the link to that tipping point in the comments as well. The second item you see up there for customers really looking for the lowest cost comes down to whether or not they can pull in the cloud operations, absorb running the underlying cloud themselves. And so some companies are not prepared or not interested in doing that, and then we provide help on that side of the house. But if you are really looking to do that, or it also depends on the type of company you are, you may very well be able to do that. So some common companies that you might see that do it, of course, the hosting and cloud providers that I mentioned often have the system administrators already on hand, and there's no greater expense to actually pull in managing the cloud. SaaS companies can often handle it. Companies that are offering like a hosted version of their open source system can very well often handle that. And then also very like technical managed service providers. And so sometimes people go, oh, well, is this going to be more expensive? I'm going to have to absorb that cost. But one of the things to remember, in the past, running a private cloud was daunting. But today, you're going to be using our pre-built, day two ready best practices, which means you can get a really good like system administrator to resource managed ratio. And when you get a good one like that, it essentially means that you've got really low operational expenses. And in many cases, companies can simply just absorb it. Again, when you used to have to architect a private cloud, that was very complicated, but that's out of the way. The actual running of the cloud is considerably less difficult than it's ever been before, and it's continuing to get more standardized and easier, so it's a better operational expense, like I said. So for OpenMetal, we do aim to educate and empower the systems teams that can run these clouds, but we also recognize that some companies don't want to do that. They're not at the spot in their business plan where they want to do that. And so we also offer an assisted management approach that relieves a lot of that from you. So the third item up there is the big question. Everybody always asks me this, of course. But first, let's mention that private clouds are hardware-based units, so there's no surprise billing. This with OpenMetal, a budget can be set by leadership, you, the CTO, the CFO. They can simply set what the amount per day can be spent. And if a team member or automation wants to add additional hardware above that limit, the system will simply say you can't do that, and you need to check with the person that sets your budgets. And so really this is designed for both CTOs and CFOs to love this system. And the only variable billing that we actually have is egress traffic. And that's billed not by the gigabyte, but it's billed by the megabits at the 95th percentile. It's the same as you would get if you were buying connectivity yourself directly from an internet provider. We also have the ability to cap the transmit speeds and thus fix the egress costs. There's some nuance in that, but so the cost control is considerably different than a typical public cloud. So, all right. So along with preventing runaway bills, the savings numbers are up there on the screen: 35% to 60%. And so imagine you have a $100,000 bill. If you can get down to $65,000 or $50,000 or $40,000, what else can you do with those dollars? It's lower cost to customers, make your product more competitive out there. You could get more staff working on this, higher profits, of course. Maybe you're a startup. You can extend your runway. So all good things. But again, this tipping point does become very, very meaningful. And so it's all good things that you do want to be paying attention to. Make friends with the CFO again, I guess. All right. So then, of course, after people kind of say, all right, I'm interested, those dollar figures and the performance is going to be there for me, what are the key workloads that I might approach first when I look at this? And so I'm going to give you this based upon what we have seen from customers as they've been moving in. So very popular is development pipelines. So development pipelines are often portable, and you're often overpaying because they're running on like production level services when you don't need that. You don't need 5 nines. Maybe you need 4 nines or 3 nines, 9995. And that's perfectly acceptable. Well, to get those extra 9s, it's quite expensive. So development's pretty common. Then playgrounds and rapid R&D. So maybe not as intuitive, but because private clouds have fixed costs, you can basically set your team free on these. So you don't have to worry about some crazy bill coming in and on Monday having to deal with an overage that is like put you guys out of bounds and put you in the arena with the CFO. So that's a common one. High egress cost workloads, of course. High cost egress. those are going to be on your list, and you're going to see those definitively in the bill. So typically easy to see and typically straightforward to deal with. We also see customers move in new production. So prior to moving in existing production, because existing productions often have commits, right? You've already signed an agreement of some sort to try to get down to a reasonable price point, which you didn't quite get down there, but you're still under that agreement. So a lot of times customers are putting on new production workloads that have made the decision to say, I am no longer, going to put additional expense into my current public cloud because the unit economics don't work. After new production, look at the low performing due to no proximity control. It's kind of a lengthy one, but it means that with private clouds, you can explicitly locate VMs on the same hardware nodes to minimize latency. And you can also locate bulk object storage nearby to the working VMs. And so a lot of times these can just speed up what either the VMs have to talk to each other, maybe it's a part of a cluster itself, and they have to be there's a lot of intercommunication. You can speed that up with proximity, and again with basically local object storage. It's basically blazing fast. So that's a common one for people to look at. After that, you start to get into the really large categories. So the steady state workloads that require steady state costs. Let's say if it's a cost, it's a service that you're passing through and you have revenue from a customer, but you don't have the flexibility to modify their rates, even though the costs are very, very dynamic. And then of course, those two typically you've got schedules that you're going to be following in that. So it could be that there are agreements, they're just very large. Some of these things take time. So in our case, what we do is start with a private cloud that you're going to move into in the next 6 months. We have ramps. We can take advantage of the ramps. Make sure that you're working with your account manager to do that. But once you've moved over, let's say maybe 80%, then you can add hardware nodes as you go. And so with on-demand, the on-demand aspect is you don't have to buy the whole cloud to get it started. You buy the core and then add the units as necessary once you get up to a certain utilization rate. So that is what we advise for workloads that you should target first. I've got the list of what you should not target. I don't think we need to dig through that too much. Some of those are self-evident, obviously low-cost ones. We do kind of point out the deeply embedded things like serverless. If there's no such thing as serverless, of course, so there are expenses that are associated with that. But if your development team is really married to that, unless it's a really expensive part of your overall bill, that's one of those that sometimes you're just going to have to wait for a little bit. We do have partners that we work with to help customers that have to make changes to get off of the more backed into a corner usage of serverless on some of the public clouds. But yeah, that's something that you could work with us on. All right, so that really kind of covers what I wanted to talk about there. I'll just end this up pretty quickly with a couple things that is very different, I guess. So you could say it's a key difference from the public clouds. And you can say it most simply is we actually like our customers. We will be talking to you. We like working with customers, seeing what challenges they're facing, and improving our system in order to benefit us both. So I've just thrown a couple of the customer quotes inside here. I won't read them. Although I'll read some of these. So he's got the one up there. Your team is the kind of people we would dream of having on our own team. Thank you to Tom over at Convesio. Gary at Pipestream said some nice things as well. What else did we have here? My Mini Factory, Nebo says they're an extension of who we are. And over there, Hunt.io says a really nice one. Their technology is great, but their superpower is a culture of aligning their team with our goals. Yeah, so again, we do like our customers, and we, hope we get a chance to have you as one. A lot of our customers, when they move over here, one of the things they just say is I spend $100,000 a month with GCP or AWS, and they still won't talk to me. So we're different over here. A couple things from the industry. We've got some awards. S&P Global did some coverage. All right. So I always like to end with a more philosophical thought, I guess. And so cloud, as it says up there, cloud's not a destination. You don't move to the cloud. You're adopting a methodology of getting infrastructure a certain way. It's your choice of where this will be. We hope that maybe it will be with us, but we certainly want the industry to understand, and you as CTOs or any of you technical people watching, is that on-demand private cloud is here. It's a real thing, and it can fit into a lot of plans that you may have to control those costs and to get better value out of your dollars. So, all right, well, that is my talk on on-demand private cloud for CTOs. So hopefully I'll get the links loaded up in the bottom there. Please extend questions or comments. I'd love to hear them, and we'll hopefully be able to answer some of those things in upcoming videos. This is part of a series, and so you'll probably get prompted after this for the next one in the series. So again, appreciate your time, and thank you for listening, and I hope we get to meet you soon. Thank you.